Hi everybody, welcome to Shiver Speaks. We are kicking off July with a movie review of the new movie A Quiet Place Day 1, which came out this past Friday, June 28th, 2024. So, getting into the storyline of A Quiet Place Day 1, you do not need to have watched the first Quiet Place or even the second one. This movie can stand all alone as it is. But we follow Sam, who is played by Lupita Nyong. This is a character who is in hospice, who has been dying for quite some time, and basically just can't cross the finish line. So she's a little depressed that she's still in there. She's in the middle of New York City, so she wants to go out and have fun and be out of hospice. Who wouldn't? And the main nurse, his name is Ruben, played by Alex Wolff, he sort of wants to be friends with her, but also knows how depressed and kind of broken she is. So he takes the group of people in hospice care to a marionette show. And so we really start the movie by watching this marionette show. It is very beautiful to watch, and even as us, the audience, watching Sam watch the marionette show, it's very emotional. So she has a therapy cat and takes this cat everywhere with her. So the cat starts to sort of try to get out. She then walks outside, just goes for a walk, clears her head, and that's when the alien invasion commences. So if you've seen The Quiet Place before, these are the same aliens, these are the same creatures from all of the movies, but this is just their arrival onto Earth, and in particular in New York City. So everybody starts to get onto the bus to leave to try to go back to the hospice care, but they don't make it out of the city in time. And so then Sam and Ruben are taking shelter in the Marionette Theater. And the rest of the hospice people probably too, but we don't really follow them. So Sam wants to go outside and kind of see what's going on. Everybody else is telling her to stay still. The more and more that she takes notice, the more she realizes the pattern is to be quiet. So she starts trying to help out some other people. While they're in the Marionette Theater, power in the city goes out, and there's all these announcements like get to the bridge so that you can evacuate. And she and Ruben decide to kind of stay and help the people, but then this generator kicks off and a bunch of the people in the theater die, and so she is on the move. So she basically goes on the move, follows her cat around, and figures out how to survive for at least a couple of days. She goes to the local bodega, grabs a couple of granola bars and things like that, cat food. And even the one scene of her trying to open cat food is interesting because you wouldn't think of the noises of a can opening being something that would trigger an apocalypse. Like, you would just kind of take that for granted. So it's maneuvering all of these ways of being quiet, thinking about your day-to-day life and how to change that a little bit, and being more aware. So she then runs into Eric, who's played by Joseph Quinn. He's the person from Stranger Things who's awesome, and he's basically drowning in the subway. So he comes back to life. He sees the cat, and then he follows the cat. So then he just starts following Sam around. And she wants very much to be left alone, especially after the generator goes off and that kills Ruben. She's seen death right in front of her, and she still has that feeling of like, it's still not my turn, I'm still not dying. So Eric wants to be her friend, wants to follow her around, wants to follow the cat, really. And she really wants nothing to do with him. Long story short, they get close, and he starts taking care of her. He goes on a medicine run for her. He helps her out. They find shelter. They go through all of the things. And then they start getting a little bit more personal. And she tells him the story of her dead father and how he used to play at a local jazz place, and they would always get pizza. And so her whole goal of being in the city and going to this marionette show in the first place was to have a slice of pizza. And so she ends up walking him all the way to Harlem to this jazz club where her father used to play, and they basically play charades and pretend to play the piano and drink some whiskey and things like that. It's a very, very, very heartwarming moment. and piece of the movie. And it really brings a lot of humanity to her as a character and a lot of feeling and meaning to him as a character as well. So after that, they decide that Sam is going to stay in the city, and the goal now is to get Eric out. So they pack everything up, they have their moment, they cry, and just as the last ferry is leaving New York, Eric is running on the dock and trying to get to it, and Sam is staying behind, throwing all of these rocks through car windows so that the car alarms go off, and spoiler alert, he makes it, and she stays behind and listens to this music in her headphones and just walks in the street and nobody there, no noise, no nothing, and puts her iPod on full blast for all of the monsters to come get her. So that's how the movie ends. Before getting into the actual review of it, absolutely loved this movie. I know a lot of people who I went to movies with the Shivers group, and other people who I've been talking to believe that this movie was boring and somewhat predictable. I do think that it was a little bit predictable, but I mean, I've never cried in a horror movie, and it was just so emotional, so moving, so good, and I would recommend it to anybody. So for the story itself, I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think because we've already seen A Quiet Place before and know these monsters and know sort of their story, there's nothing that's too new. Being that it is A Quiet Place Day 1, I would have liked to know more about the monsters. Why are they here? Where did they come from? A little bit more of an explanation, especially, again, being for day 1, but that's okay. Originality, 5 out of 5. I think this is a good way, maybe I would knock that down to a 4, because this is just another apocalypse movie. Again, we have seen A Quiet Place before, but I think having the true human element of it brings that feeling of like The Walking Dead and The Last of Us to a movie. And, maybe that's why I like it so much, because I love those. And so yeah, for acting, 5 out of 5. I think that is one of the things as a group that we talked about across the board was like the biggest plus of the movies, that everybody who was in this movie was a good actor, was very committed to their roles, was very believable in their roles, and that came across. And then production, 5 out of 5. There's a lot going on. It feels like a massive action movie, and I think that's great. And then for scares, I would give it a 1 out of 5. This is in no way, shape, or form a horror movie. This is an emotional action movie. Yes, there's some blood and guts, but there's nothing that is overtly scary. There's nothing like that. So putting that all together, you get a 4 out of 5 as the actual score. I will recommend this movie. I think everybody should watch it. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I didn't go in with really any expectations, but I really very much enjoyed this movie, and I would recommend it to anybody. And again, it is not so much a horror movie. It is definitely an action movie. I think this would be a great first horror movie or first like horror action movie to show to a teenager or a kid. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you think it was boring and predictable? Did you think it was emotional and fun? Let me know your thoughts. And as always, thanks for listening. See our meetup page for more upcoming events. Doing a lot more that are virtual, so you can join from wherever you are.